Folks, trade season is here and we're going to be starting to really ramp up the trade content on the channel. Now, there is a lot of NHL contenders right now, and there is a lot of contenders out there looking for that big boost to push them over the top. And a recent article by Bleacher Report came out that you guys wanted me to react to, trades to push NHL Stanley Cup contenders over the top. But what are these NHL trades that could seemingly fix contenders in the NHL? Well, make sure you watch till the end as we go through this article as well as some of my mock trades, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content and trade content just like this as we lead up to the NHL Trade Deadline. And I'll link the article as well in the description so you guys can check it out and read for yourself as well. Now, we start out by having Juuse Saros in the cover here, and this is going to be a really hot one. I'm really interested to see if we actually do see a Saros mock trade, what that looks like. Now, we keep going, March 8th trade deadline, seeing what these contenders could get, and for the first one, the first potential trade to fix contenders, we got the Boston Bruins and Elias Lindholm. Now, this one's pretty spicy to me because I feel like the Bruins have seemingly fixed their center situation in a big way, but has it really gone over the top? Is it good enough to get them far in the Stanley Cup playoffs? We'll have to wait and see for that. Lindholm would certainly be a big addition. We've talked about Lindholm to the Bruins for a long time now. Adam says, Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha have done a fine job so far, but they still need more depth and more offensive punch in that position, especially when it comes time for the playoffs. Lindholm could be the most impacted potential option available in the market, and I can agree with that. Again, they have been solid in their roles, but if there is one thing that if you could change if you're Boston, you would probably change the center situation, make it a little bit more stable and consistent offensively. Sure, Zacha, I think, has done very well. Coyle, I think, has done very well, but sure, I can see those complaints. Now, if we're talking potential mock trade in a Lindholm to Boston deal, it would of course have to include a first round pick and that 2025 first round pick, really. Now, that is a conditional pick, but that's all. It really only affects things if the Bruins are bottom 10 in the league this year, which won't happen. So the Bruins will have the 2025 pick. I also see them getting rid of Jake DeBrincat, who carries a $4 million cap hit, so that'll make it a lot easier to bring on Lindholm for this next year, and of course, exchanging cap hits there. And I also see a prospect going back, likely center Brett Harrison, who's a 20-year-old, doing solid in the AHL this year. I think the Flames would want to have some other forward piece coming back. In the end, though, I think this is a deal that could work out for both teams, though you might have to add just a little bit more for the Flames to get rid of Lindholm. We'll have to wait and see. Now, let's take just a second here to welcome today's sponsor in Underdog Fantasy. The best place to play daily fantasy sports is with Underdog. It's so much fun to go through every single day and pick which players might overperform, which players might underperform as well. For today, though, I'm going to be predicting Mika Zibanejad versus former team in the Ottawa Senators to get higher than a 0.5 power play points. And also, a lot of eyes are going to be on that Canucks and Devils game with all three of Hughes brothers playing at the same time. I'm going to have Quinn Hughes higher than 1.5 points. I think he's going to come to play versus Vitek Vanacek. Another favorite feature of mine is the rivals section. If you go onto the menu, then pick rivals, you can go through every player and pick which player will have more shots, more goals, more assists for even more variety. To make watching NHL games that much more fun, join me on Underdog Fantasy. Click the link down below and use promo code GRAB. You'll get an 100% deposit match up to $100 on Underdog. An amazing deal they're offering there. So make sure you sign up and use the promo code to support the channel, and thank you so much to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. Now let's go on to contender trade number 2 here next up, and we got the Edmonton Oilers and Jake Allen. Again, we talked about a lot about a Jake Allen trade to Edmonton. I'm interested to see what a Jake Allen trade to Edmonton could actually look like, though. That's the big thing. Adam talks about, of course, Jack Campbell's struggles, and especially with Montembeault being re-signed like we talked about a few days ago. Allen is the most likely to be traded by Montreal, and he does make a good point about Allen being a game stealer. He's had some great games, some poor games, but when he is at his best, he can be a starter caliber player for Edmonton. The problem that seemingly every mock trade, including Edmonton, has to run into is that cap space. And with Jake Allen, he carries a $3.85 million cap hit. With Edmonton, they'll have about $150K in cap space by the deadline. Really, the only way this happens is if Allen does go to Edmonton, it would have to include some type of salary retention, probably $1 million, probably 1.2 million-ish on that deal, which will hurt Montreal and will make this package a lot better for them to retain that much for not just this year, but next as well. But I think Jake Allen going to Edmonton, you'd have to give up Warren Fogle and his entire deal, which wouldn't be too much of a problem for Edmonton. They want to offload that cap, but they'd also have to get rid of a second-round pick, and I think prospect Matvei Petrov, who has been really solid under the last couple of years in the OHL and now in the AHL, but I think for the Oilers, they'll have to give up a lot. Maybe even another pick, maybe like a 4th round rounder or something in the future. It would take a lot for not just the Habs to get rid of Allen, especially considering how little momentum Edmonton has, but also considering, of course, the salary retention that Montreal would have to keep. Now going on to potential trade number 3 here, and we got the New Jersey Devils getting Juuse Saros. There it is. Bang, the Saros trade has been confirmed. Of course, I already know what Adam's thinking process is with this probably. Yeah, Vitek Vanacek and the struggles there, and of course with New Jersey and the expectations. I mean, Saros would definitely be a huge get, that's for sure. The problem that I always find with Juuse Saros trades is I just don't think the Predators are going to be in a position to want to trade him. In fact, I think the Predators would rather trade a player like Askarov in the system than trade a player like Saros. Now, he does have $5 million in his cap hit for next year and this year, and there might be some concerns that he might not re-sign, but I don't really think so. I think he's always been pretty loyal to Nashville, and unless there is a change, I don't really see Saros ever being moved. As of right now, to get Saros, it would have to be a catastrophic offer by New Jersey. We're talking players like Dawson Mercer, maybe even a player like Luke Hughes. It could be that crazy. That's why I'm personally in the boat that New Jersey or any team really shouldn't trade for Saros at this stage, even though he is still one of the best goalies in the NHL. The price to trade him now from Nashville would be insane, especially considering Nashville still has all the momentum on their side. They don't really need to trade him. They've looked pretty solid this year. Saros is getting better. There's really no reason to. Next up at number 4 is Chris Tanev and the Toronto Maple Leafs being a fit. And this actually is interesting because especially over the past couple of days, really since Zadorov has been traded, we've heard even more steam about Tanev being a potential fit with the Leafs, or at least the Leafs really wanting Tanev, which makes sense. He'd be a perfect defensive defenseman for him, and really any NHL contender out there. To me, it's interesting because I did think that Zadorov would get a lot more in a trade, so I'm not really sure what Calgary is thinking right now regarding Tanev and what the asking price could be. It's kind of tricky. I do think they value Tanev a lot more, though. We've even heard, of course, them coming after Tanev, wanting to get another deal done, wanting to potentially still make a contract extension happen, even though it's not likely to in the end. The problem becomes, as we've kind of heard a little bit about the Leafs not wanting to trade their first-round pick this year, it makes it a lot more complicated because you're going to have to give up a lot of good young talent. To me, I can see Connor Timmins being in that deal, right D for right D, but a younger piece for the Flames that they could really use there as they get rid of all these D-men on the team. I think he'll be a part of the trade. I think, of course, Nick Abruzzese, who we talked about a lot in a potential Leafs and Flames deal, would be a part of that as well. But I could honestly see a top D prospect as well, going back like Topi Nemula. This is the problem. If the Leafs don't want to trade a first-round pick, it's going to mean that some big-time prospect is coming back to the Flames, as it should. But I think Nemula would be one that the Flames really target with the offense that he can put up. Now let's go on to number 5, the 5th potential pairing, and Sean Monahan and the New York Rangers. This one is wild. Okay. This is interesting, saying how they're not especially deep during 5-on-5 play and rely a lot on their power play to carry their offense. One area they could improve on is the middle of their lineup, especially some offense from the center position. This is actually going to be one that I disagree with a lot. For the Rangers, I think they've been a fantastic 5-on-5 team. They've been generating a lot of offense and have been deserving of all these wins they've been racking up. And if you look at the center situation right now, then sure, yeah, Monahan would be great as a third-line center option, maybe even second-line center option. But the fact that you, of course, don't have a player in Philip Hedl in the lineup, of course, being injured right now, and that just changes everything. I mean, Hedl being added on makes it completely different. They would not need Sean Monahan at all. This is one that I'm going to really disagree with, because I feel like for the Rangers, their center situation is not what they need to add on. They need to add potentially some depth on that right wing, potentially get rid of a player like Blake Wheeler into the lineup. To me, with the Rangers, they don't need more center offense. Once Hedl's back, it'll be completely fine. So I really don't see where this is coming from for me. Again, going on to the reasoning, saying that he would be a great third-line center behind Zibanejad and Trocheck. But again, we're forgetting about Philip Hedl, who had been great before he got injured, was solid last season. I think he could be a great third-line scoring option. I mean, there's a lot lesser players you could go for. To me, with Monahan, sure, he'd be great, but it would just be adding on to a position that they're already pretty fine with. And I think Hedl has already been developing so well as a center already and spent so much time doing that it would just be kind of wasted to bring in Monahan like this. This is going to be another one that really does confuse me. I gotta pump the brakes on this, man, is saying that if there's one potential flaw, it might be in goal where they do not have a clear-cut starter. He says how Cam Talbot is on a hot start and is in a record of inconsistency. He's probably not somebody who should be a full-time starter without much of a safety net behind him. And I would agree in terms of having a safety net. I would say Copley's been getting better, though, these past couple of weeks after a pretty poor start with LA. But to me, I think right now, Talbot has been one of their strongest parts. I mean, LA has had a dynamic start to the season, but Talbot and his resurgence has been a big part of that. He's one of the best goaltenders in goals saved above expected. He has been putting up great numbers because he's been playing well, not just because LA's system is fantastic, which it is, and that's definitely helped, but he has also been great by himself. Reimer's been good this year for Detroit, definitely, but I feel like for LA, if you're going to trade for somebody, I don't know. I feel like Talbot has already showed himself well enough, and Copley in the past, especially last year, was solid for them. I think once he gets back to his game, they'll be fine in that. If, of course, a player like Talbot is able to continue his play. Then on to number 7, the Carolina Hurricanes and MacKenzie Blackwood. This one is interesting. We mentioned Blackwood earlier with the New Jersey Devils, how funny a reunion would be there, but he could end up going to a division rival here in Carolina. This one is interesting. I mean, we know how bad the Canes goalie tending has been this year. You just look at the raw save percentage, an .859 save percentage for Ronta, an .894 save percentage for Freddie Anderson, an .881 save percentage in 10 games for Kochichov. I mean, as bad as you can get. Carolina has been a weird team this year, but the goaltending has been a big reason for that. MacKenzie Blackwood, though, has put up some pretty good numbers as a Shark and has stolen a lot of games for them. And I feel like he is a really interesting bet in Carolina, considering going from one of the worst defensive systems to one of the better ones when it's actually playing up to its level. MacKenzie Blackwood could be interesting, especially for the Canes as well. If we're talking about low risk bets, if we're talking about players that wouldn't cost a lot. For Carolina, Blackwood would probably be at the top of the food chain there. I don't really expect San Jose to want a whole heck of a lot for him, maybe a third at most. And for a team like Carolina, who already has a ton of prospects, you could offer up a prospect equivalent of that very easily, as well as the pick if you really wanted to. I like this a lot for Carolina. Going through a couple of trades that I don't really quite agree with, this one I think could make sense. Now, Blackwood, if we're talking about inconsistencies, has obviously had that even this year, of course, when he has played well. But at the same time, for Carolina, you might as well try something new, because what's happening right now ain't working out. Now let's go on to the last one here with the Dallas. Oh boy, okay. My favorite team, the Dallas Stars, and Noah Hanifin. Okay, this is going to be a doozy. Now, if this would just be personally, I would say Chris Tanev all day, every day. If we're talking about a Flames D going to the Stars, Hanifin would be interesting, but I do think I just want the pure raw defense that Tanev provides a lot better. But going through it, just talking about, of course, how solid Dallas has been the past couple of years. He might be a luxury, but even an expensive luxury in terms of potential trade assets. But the Stars have a real chance to seriously compete for a Stanley Cup this season, and they do not want to let a chance like that slip away. So interesting there. I personally would say Tanev is a much better fit for the Stars. I mean, again, they need that raw defense so much more than Hanifin, who's kind of more of a dual threat type of guy. But I mean, Hanifin would be interesting. I just feel like Hanifin would cost more and probably be less of a fit than Tanev in the end. As for what it would cost the Stars, it would probably start with a first-round pick, maybe even a second from this year as well, and probably a couple younger players on the team, probably a player like Ty Dellandrea, former top 15 pick, who's just not been really utilized very well this season, as well as Nils Lundqvist, who has also not been very well utilized at the Stars this year, but can provide some good offense. I think that's about where a trade for Hanifin would lie. I think it would cost more than Tanev, especially considering for the Flames, it feels like Hanifin is the guy they really want to keep long-term. Out of all the D that are expiring, they want to keep Hanifin if they're going to keep anybody, which I think would be the smartest move. And for the Stars, that makes a potential trade, all the assets given away, it would bring a lot more of a price tag there for, I think, a lot less value than Tanev would bring specifically. I feel like the Stars already kind of have the better Noah Hanifin and Miro Heiskanen as well, and I just feel like they could really use an upgrade in the defensive defenseman side. Tanev would be that, but hey, maybe Noah Hanifin could be a player that really works here. We'll see. But those are the trades that could potentially fix contenders in the NHL right now. I want to know in the comments down below, what do you guys agree and disagree with this list? What trades would you make if you're a fan of a contending team, or for some of these contenders, what trades would you make instead? What do your mock trades look like as well? Let us know down below. Of course, make sure you go in the description, click on the article, give it some support. We'd really appreciate that. And of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the notification bell on the video if you guys did enjoy and want to see more videos just like this as we break down all the latest stuff in the NHL. And of course, make sure you share a video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. And I will see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day, and goodbye.